One. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are for the final episode, the finale of Open Floor with Nishank's season 2. And today I have a very, very special guest with us. That is Nayona Roy. I call her Nayona ma'am out of respect. But, before we sort of delve into her formal introductions, let me sort of make it very clear to you. Ma'am, a sort of a poll was conducted for who should I bring in as a final guest, and I gave out 5 names, and we have a community of around, let's say, 800 to 10,000 students, and 71.4%, that's the rounded off figure, 71.4 to 5% people voted for you to be the final guest on the show, and out of which around 70 to 75% of them were also women. So that is something to be really, really proud about, and we'll talk about it later in the show as to how this exactly panned out. But let's start with it. Let's start with your formal introductions, and this is going to be a little longer compared to other guests. That is what exactly I was saying out to ma'am for the extensive work she's done. Nayona is a partner in the technology, media, and telecommunications practice with Dentons Link, formerly known as Link Legal. Also, ma'am, feel free to correct me in case anywhere you think I have misstated a fact or something like that. There is so much information out there. It is very much possible. Nayona Roy is an innovative legal counsel who has also donned the hat of a founder in legal technology and a decade of cross-sectoral legal experience spanning across firms and FMCG conglomerates, to being at the helm of the legal team of a digital media startup where she's been counseled to music maestro AR Rahman and introduced blockchain into the organizational roadmap. Leveraging her diverse experience as an in-house counsel, Nayona founded Unsuit, a multi-product suite powered by AI, augmenting productivity of legal professionals. She's not only built the product as a B2B SaaS platform, but also secured funding from a leading venture capitalist, Antler India, an experience that arms her not just with a deep understanding of product creation and development in AI, as well as key insights into the nuances of a venture backed startup, which is evidenced in her business and solution oriented approach. Nayona's legal career spans across mergers and acquisitions, corporate litigation, and regulatory compliance for the FMCG sector, and a deep dive into the media and entertainment industry, encapsulating complex assignment and licensing arrangements, music and cinematographic property creation, smart contracts on the blockchain, and minting of NFTs. Ma'am, this was a proper read out formal introduction for you. Thank you so much for being the final guest on Open Floor with Nishank season 2. It is indeed a pleasure to see you here.
Thank you so much, and extremely humbled by the vote for sure. Didn't know that. And thank you for that highly exaggerated introduction.
Right. I don't think the introduction is exaggerated. Like I said, if there is a fact that you think that's incorrect, please let us know. But you, ma'am, also, I mean, I want to talk about so many things, but I've said this only, I think, 3 to 4 times now in my show. That there are only few times that I sort of step down from the idea of a host of the show and become more of a student. I want to be a student. I want to hear all that you have to say. Ma'am, take us through your journey, because it's been I think it's been more than a decade in this profession
Yes,
now, right?
yes, yes.
And
Just a little over a decade.
yeah, it's been over a decade. And ma'am, so many different firms, so many different kinds of exposure. I was really, really surprised, overwhelmed to see AR Rahman's thing in the in the even in the introduction while we were researching. That is also that's something that has fascinated the law students about it. How would you let's hear it from your side, what the journey has been like.
Looking back, I think I would just start by saying God has been kind, and everything that has come to me has come as an opportunity that I could just seize. So looking back, the journey is nostalgic as well as overwhelming at times. And I'm simply grateful for it. And having said that, I think I always wanted to be a lawyer. I thought of becoming a lawyer when I was 14. And I had that goal very clearly set that I want to be in a national law school. And sometimes I have wondered whether it was the right thing to do. but of course, life takes you where it needs to. Joined NLU Delhi straight out of school, the 5-year program. Joined AR Partners straight out of college, but realized that M&A is not my space. Stepped out of that pretty early on. And my career effectively began when I joined the FMCG space. So I started with Unilever, followed by Godrej and Coca-Cola. That was a fairly long stint in the consumer goods industry, and especially the fast-moving consumer goods industry. Lot of challenges, and also I was very fortunate that some of the critical challenges came in just when I was joining Unilever. For example, the famous noodle MSG and Ash case.
Right.
And it originated exactly where I was posted, which was UP. From there to navigating all of those challenges, to navigating approximately 300 plus litigations during my entire tenure of Unilever and Godrej, to making a shift to Coke, where I did commercial law and contracts and transactions. And of course, I've been very fortunate to have very good mentors. So I credit everything to them. There was ambition, yes, but they fueled that ambition. And I've been blessed with mentors in each and every organization that I've worked for. When I was a Coke and COVID had hit, I'd spent some time doing that, and I'd spent some time being in the FMCG industry. I realized that I think I need to, move out of the big company space, the large company space, and move into a startup, because the startup economy was just picking up. Especially in the pandemic, I think a lot of startups did fail, but also a lot of startups sprung up during that time. There was a time of digitization, and it was the beginning of the digital renaissance that we are in today. So I think that was the beginning. That is when I interviewed for Mr. Rahman's company. I mean, it's actually co-founded by AR Rahman, Shekhar Kapoor, and the late Sameer Bungara. It's a phenomenal organization, QP, which deals with content, creativity, and there's creativity all around, even when you're working. So there's always something new happening. Got really interested in the media space, because until then I was only handling it from the point of view of contracts and from the point of view of engaging a particular artist, etc., for a brand. But having stepped into QPI, I saw the nuances of the creative economy very closely. I was extremely fortunate. Again, had mentors who pushed me on the business side of things, helped me to bring blockchain into the organizational roadmap, which is when I kind of got introduced to technology. And prior to that, also in all my previous experiences, I had been the one leveraging legal tech, right? From when it was in its most rudimentary forms to when it became far more advanced.
Right.
So that, of course, paved the way for the next step, which was as a tech project. And I thought of, Unsuit was my brainchild. Wanted to create something that would augment lawyers in their journey, help them to raise the bar, basically. And approached Antler for funding, as well as finding a co-founder, because I had no idea about how tech actually operated. Got it funded, created the product, learned a lot, unlearned a fair bit, and I think that's key to the journey. And then I decided that I think I'd rather sell this to my co-founder, sell the IP to my co-founder, and come back to law. So that's when Dentons happened, and that's where I am.
Ma'am, is there anything that you think you will or you have not done already? Because no, that
So
is
much.
very comprehensive. Yeah, and I know that that is the kind of attitude that's there because of which you've come so far, ma'am. But I also genuinely want to understand one thing. So it's very different, when you're dealing with a particular startup, for example, and whether it's reaching out to investors and then stepping into the shoes of an in-house counsel, and then probably you've also worked at tier one law firms. You've worked at the best law firms in the country. You are at one right now. How different is the work, like in the idea of it, that kitni cheezein, and like I said, I'll switch to Hindi and English. Kitni cheezein different hoti hain for someone who's working as in house, and then you're sort of there in the law firm. Because last time we had a partner, they said that the kind of work they believe in a law firm was more technical, whereas in an in-house they had to step into the shoes of it being both practical and technical and a mixture of both. What do you feel about it?
I think the answer would change significantly from when you ask the question, right?
Right,
So, if you had asked me this, say, 6 years back, my answer would have been that in a law firm, your role ends at a certain point, whereas in-house, you're both the lawyer and the client. So
right,
you're stepping into the shoes of the client as well. And you're responsible for the opinions you give, for the strategy that you adopt, etc. And yes, it has to be more commercially valuable. Having said that, I think the answer changes significantly today because
right,
we are sitting in a space where technology has made the world pretty flat,
yeah,
and it's important for lawyers to also up their game.
yeah,
And the only way that you can do that is innovative thinking
right,
because technology will keep going ahead of
right,
its time, right? I
right,
mean, what was once science fiction is now in the real world. At one time it was blockchain, today it is AI, tomorrow it will be cognitive AI, day after will be something else.
right,
But having said that, I think what is important is innovative thinking. And I'd say that irrespective of whether you are in a startup or whether you are in a large organization or whether you are in a law firm, um, the role kind of remains the same. To think from the point of view of business, to think about how it will work rather than will it work, to find commercially viable solutions, to be solution oriented.
right, right. Ma'am, one thing that I was thinking of while you were even answering the question, the idea of how you approach different things differently, but then is also there's some sense of certain things being common. But let's just talk about startups for a while. I personally have been involved with a couple of them now, and I see a lot of, like you said, like you rightly pointed out, there are so many startups that have been booming. In fact, I think if you were to look at the numbers also for that matter, I think on the Startup India's initiative sort of success, the DPIIT recognized that around over 12.42 lakh direct jobs had been created, creating significant economic impact and all of that. And that is also as per the latest report of economic survey conducted in 2024. But ma'am, so many startups also fail, and this is a real aspect of it. A lot of startups in fact do not pan out, whether it's with respect to the funding, whether it's with respect to the idea execution or the legal compliances part. As someone who's donned the hat of being a founder of one, and also sort of had the chance to deal with the investors, what would be your advice to someone who's, let's say, starting a particular project, or is, let's say, doing a startup in general? What do you think are your key takeaways from your own personal experience to what differentiates a startup from, at least having those wheels, कि अगर चल तो रहा है, at least things are in motion?
I think it's the difference between adopting an 18-year-old and giving birth to a child. So
Okay.
that's um
All right.
so when you're in an organization that has been in existence for some time, you have the luxury of having a brand name, having built distribution muscle, having having a sales network, having clientele who are loyal to you, hopefully. But at the same time, it's a question of what you add to that empire that exists. It can be a small empire, it can be a large empire, but it's an empire nonetheless.
Right.
And yes, there are challenges that come in the 100 to 200 stage as well. And they are very different from the ones in the 0 to 1 stage.
Right.
But having said that, the navigation of those challenges requires a different set of people for sure, but it also arms you with a certain amount of cushion.
Right.
Whereas as an entrepreneur, you're literally giving it your all. You're giving it everything that you have, financially, emotionally, physically, mentally. It's an emotional roller coaster for sure, because you need to know when to stop. You need to know when to step out. And you need to first prioritize the startup over yourself. So I think that's the most important aspect of it. Fundraising, etc., is just part of the game. I mean, you won't raise it from one place, you raise it from another. That's fine. I mean, every investor has their own ideologies and their own way of looking at it. It's a question of how you want to see your business.
Right.
And how far you want to take it. It's the vision that you have for your tribe that's important.
Right. No, thank you so much. And in the first sentence itself, I was a little, caught off guard in the sense that I was a little taken aback. I think you very succinctly and very beautifully pointed out the major sort of a difference that also exists between, making a startup sort of successful. But ma'am, in general, also for like, I understand for people who have been, been in the industry for a while and then gaining that experience and then starting something also comes with a lot of exposure, because you meet different people, you have a lot of experiences in general of working also, you grow your network, like people go on to say network is net worth and all that. But for someone, and especially it's really surprising because a lot of youngsters, someone who's at the, like, let's say someone who's sitting at my age, or some people are even dropping out to do startups for that matter. How do you think, or what is your advice to them, like, because they do not have industry exposure, firstly. And my second question to you would be, what exactly is a startup? Like, are you trying to take a problem, like you said, you're dealing with a lot of issues and you have to prioritize the startup over your own self, so forget work life balance for a while, but are you taking a particular problem and are you trying to solve that problem? Is that what a startup is? Or
There are two parts to this,
right,
the answer to this question. I think one part is, what is a startup? I'd say you can treat any role that you're in as a startup role. Right? You can bring a leadership mindset into any role that you.
right,
And that's exactly what I tell myself every morning, even today, even when I'm a part of a firm which has 180 offices across the world, that it's a startup. I have to do my job as a startup today, as a founder today.
Yeah.
And there are times when I'm approaching clients who are startups themselves, and there's so much of relatability, because we share the same values, and that really helps. So I don't think you need to call it a startup, or you need to raise funds for it to be a startup.
Yeah.
Anything that you're working to build is a startup. It could be a new practice area within a firm. It could be a focus within a firm. It could be a new idea altogether. It could be a pillar of the road. It's all a startup. It's what your mindset is.
Right.
So yes, there's a lot of shebang added to it today, but it's the next trending thing to do in influencer terms. But having said that, I think startup is a lot about the mindset than the enterprise that you're working for.
That's yeah.
The other part of that answer is that what advice would I give or how would they go about it? There is no formula for this. I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen some of the best founders being either college dropouts or straight out of college.
Right, right, right.
Like, I mean, unicorns have been created by 19, 20, 21-year-olds. That's why there is Forbes 30 under 30 for people
Right,
in unicorns. But yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the exposure, but the willingness to learn.
right, right.
I don't think you can come to the table with a knowledge of everything. Nor should you come to the table with a knowledge of everything. It's a lot to do with learning as you go along.
Absolutely. No, and I think even this relates very much to what Mark Zuckerberg says about startups. Or in fact, you even like you've worked with Coca-Cola. I was reading one day about Coca-Cola how they had sold just a limited number of bottles in their first year. Nobody knows everything, and anybody who claims to do that is a little bit dicey to say so, because once you start executing things is when you start figuring out. Also, I think that's really well put, ma'am. But in general, ma'am, now we'll shift our attention a little bit to the lawyer part also. And I'm really glad that I'm getting to at least talk about startups and all of that, because this has become a very legal show for the entire season, at least this time. But ma'am, it's very different. Like we understand being an entrepreneur and then being a legal manager, whether you're a head of a legal and all of that, it's very different. But even within the industry sectors, it matters a lot. Like someone who's a partner at Denton, they are sort of in a very different role compared to, let's say, or for example, let's become industry specific. Let's talk about telecommunications, media or technology, compared to what you had done in like in a FMCG like Coca-Cola. How do you see and contrast those sort of differences? And for anyone who's coming from a background, like for example, a lot of people come from big four, they try and apply in big four, or let's say they're coming from a tier 3 tier 2 firm, and then they feel that they want to take an in-house counsel role. What do you think is your sort of advice to them, in the sense that how do they make this switch, and what are the skill sets that they need to have for making this switch, so that the firm also accepts them?
I think it's just the desire to learn, because to be honest, I haven't taken up a second role with the same thing ever in my life.
Okay.
And I mean, on one hand, you can say that that's a disadvantage because, you don't get to become a specialist in anything. But at the same time, I think it's also a huge advantage because it gives you so much of a breadth of understanding and experience. I mean, I would say I've been fortunate to have that. Even though I've dived super deep into media and AI in the last 4 years, there is still so much to learn, and I'm literally learning every day. I'm learning from the juniors, I'm learning from my seniors, I'm learning from my clients. I'm coming across new models of functioning from clients, and it's like a list of takeaways on an everyday basis. So I think if you just have the attitude to pick up and to learn, it doesn't take time to unlearn.
Okay. Okay. So you essentially are saying that it is not really, it is an understanding that if you're willing to, you're open minded, in the sense कि अगर आपको सीखना है even in a different role, you'll be able to do that. And it's not really, I take a little bit of objection to the fact that you say that you don't become a specialist in anything. I mean, how special, how more special do you have to be working at the places that you are working at? In fact, a lot of people that come for come from tier 3 tier 4 cities are I mean, for them it's a dream job. And I'm being very honest about it, because that is what the it's the reality. Not everybody, in fact, ma'am, to be fair also, in the sense that what you have achieved, a lot of people look up to you. And that is why I even pointed out the poll in the first instance. But yeah, keeping that aside, ma'am, a very interesting aspect that also comes out from this entire learning and not learning part is that the competition is real. Me as a student, or XYZ, anybody who's as a student gets an internship. For a lot of people, especially who are not first generation, the entry point is a huge sort of a barrier. Especially, let's say, not everybody is studying at, let's say, a Jindal or a NLU or a Symbiosis and all of that, where you're paying lakhs and lakhs of fees. For some people, it's also about affordability. It's about feeding their families, and all these issues do persist for them. So in that case,
Yeah.
ma'am, especially when they're interning as students, what is it do you think that separates a student who's interning at a particular firm? Like, people do give out pre-placement offers, right? Firms sort of offer
Yeah.
that. What is it
Yeah.
that sort of separates an intern who's, who just comes and interns and, goes away, and from someone who manages to secure that pre-placement, or manages to, connect that well with a, let's say, a partner or an associate?
The only thing that differentiates an intern who secures replacement offer and one who doesn't is not the college that they come from, is not the background and the generations of law that they come from, but the hunger to be able to create a mark, to go the extra mile, to do everything that it takes. Because we need to show this hunger as partners, as senior partners, as managing partners also. I mean, I see that from my seniors even today, and they've achieved so much in their lives. But hunger is something that you can't let go of. So I don't think an NLU degree gives you some kind of a chip on your shoulder. I don't think whether it's an NLU jingle, I don't think the fact that you come from a Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore gives you a chip on your shoulder. The only thing that differentiates you is your hunger, is to be able to think out of the box, is to be able to think maturely from a point of view that this is not an academic project. This is something that is going to be used for a client tomorrow. If that client suffers a huge loss tomorrow because of my advice, I am responsible for it. It's that sense of
Right.
responsibility that
True.
gives you the replacement offer. Being able to own the work, being able to put in your innovative thinking. Yes, experience will give you much more of an innovative thinking process, but even without that, I think the new grads today are exposed to a lot more technology than we were 10 years back. So
Right.
that itself is great experience. And that doesn't come at too much of a cost. It's very easily accessible. So
True.
it's not
True.
bad. Use
True.
that, leverage that, deploy that,
Right.
and be as hungry as you can.
Right.
Today, it's a chat GPT prompt to ask a system what's the new trend of XYZ in the US.
Right.
I'm not saying that you should rely on, I'm
Yeah.
just it's a lot more accessible.
True. 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 No, that's very well put. Also, in terms of the accessibility, a lot of more options have also come up. Your
Yeah.
understanding of a particular field has also sort of grown with time. But one very important aspect also that sort of comes out from this idea is that, ma'am, a lot of theory-based learning happens, and it is the reality of most of the law schools in the country. And when you're looking at a A0 or someone who's working at a law firm, you're looking at someone who does not have the understanding, let's say, of how exactly things are drafted, for that matter, or how things are practically going to work. Someone who's studying in a third year, fourth year law course, they're being taught basics of company law, or they're being taught basics of arbitration and conciliation act. बट उससे ये नहीं हो जाता, एंड ऑल्सो अगेन स्पीकिंग इन हिंदी, कि मुझे ड्राफ्टिंग भी आ जाए, लाइक सेक्शन 9 की नोटिस ये ड्राफ्ट करनी आ जाए, पेटिशन ड्राफ्ट करनी आ जाए, या नोटिस ड्राफ्ट करनी आ जाए. डू यू फील देयर आर एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ वेज टू आल्सो ब्रिज दैट गैप, इन द सेंस कि उसके कोर्सेज करने चाहिए, या देयर आर प्रैक्टिकल ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स दैट प्रोबब्ली यू शुड एनरोल विद, एंड हाउ डू यू like identify इतना बड़ा pool है, it's like an ocean of somebody is offering you this, somebody is offering you that. How do you identify that maybe this is the right way to go about me, for someone who's in the shoes of a law student?
Um, okay, that's I think I think which way to go is going to change radically as you go along in your career. So go for what your current goals are, go for what interests you, go for what excites you, and after that, journey is going to change. There is no doubt about it. It is not essential that someone who starts off at a dentist is going to remain there for life and is going to remain in the same practice for life. Even if they do remain there for life, that practice might change, right? It's not that someone who is in the business of selling soap will continue to sell soap and will not move on to selling AI tech. So that's going to change. And I don't think that should be the deciding factor of, what is the role that I want to take up today. And the other thing is that don't run after the money, because run after what's going to teach you and what's going to add value to you as an individual, as a professional. Because you can be making a huge package and not adding much value to either the entity or yourself. But you can, on the contrary, be someone who's making 50,000 rupees, but is adding tremendous value and therefore gaining a lot from the process. So, I think the learning curve becomes extremely critical there. And as far as internships are concerned, I think the only way of bridging that gap is number one through internships, number two through all the other extracurriculars that are offered to you. My professor in law school said something very interesting that law school will not teach you the law; it will teach you how to think. And that's the most important lesson, I think. It's about applying that to anything that comes your way as an intern. Anything that comes your way, even in terms of writing a publication for that matter. Who is it targeted to? What am I trying to achieve with this? What is the goal that I'm trying to achieve? What value is this adding to someone beyond a Google search? And now in today's world, even an AI search. But am I genuinely adding something of value to that? Is what's going to make a difference. Like, I'll give you a simple example. When I was in law school and we had a project, it was a theoretical project. And I'm a first generation lawyer myself. So it was a project on juvenile delinquency. And I think it was part of my sociology paper, if I recollect. Of course, a large part of it was theoretical. You're looking at the law, you're examining the case laws, etc. But then there's just this one little thing that I had done, which is to get an appointment with a psychiatrist and take those cases to her and ask her, can you tell me if I have to talk about how this can change or how we can look at reformation as a conclusion? Can you tell me why someone who's a 10-year-old would commit a crime like XYZ, would commit rape, would commit murder? Why would someone who's a 15-year-old do something like this? And she took me step by step through the human psyche and what are the initial, thoughts, the initial signs of something like this happening. And that made a significant difference to that supposedly theoretical paper. So it's at the end of the day how far you can go to think out of the box to differentiate yourself, to be more relevant.
Right, absolutely, ma'am. And I think that's such a inspiration also for a lot of students who are aspiring to be, professionals one day. And also in the sense that you rightly pointed out that you're a first generation lawyer. So this mindset that somebody who's already has a edge over me, I don't think they would last in the profession if they are not good, because no client would want to keep approaching them. Neither would a firm sort of, keep entertaining them. So that's really well put. But ma'am, I've been thinking, like I was speaking to you in the break. I sort of took that we'll take out certain lines of this. like proper quotes and dialogues, and he'll put it in the front and then play it probably as a highlight. But ma'am, it's very different, like you said, to you can either choose either of the roles. Someone who's, let's say, working at a tier one, and they are making a certain amount of money in XYZ, and let's say someone who's working at a tier three, even though you're making less money, you're making some actual contributions as well. That also matters in terms of your learning. Do you believe that is there anything firstly like कि tier one से शुरू नहीं करना चाहिए या करना चाहिए? ये बहुत ही simple सवाल है. I can see you nodding your head already.
ऐसा बिल्कुल भी नहीं है, and
Yeah,
I think there is nothing everywhere, to be honest.
right,
It's just the opportunity that you get and the opportunity that you seize, which is relevant.
right.
So I started from a tier one, and
Yeah,
the money was important to me. I'm not going to deny it. But
absolutely.
having said that, I also took a pay cut going forward, and it's a question of prioritizing and figuring out whether you have that luxury or not. I was extremely fortunate to have that luxury, to have that backing, for say, even if it's for a couple of years.
Right,
And to say that, okay, I'm gonna prioritize learning over the cash that hits
right,
my account.
right.
That depends on a lot of different factors. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, prioritize what you will learn, where you will learn over a certain amount of sustenance is most important.
Right, right. No, no, absolutely. And there has always been consideration about the pay of people also. So yeah, the point about sustenance is absolutely valid. But let's make this a little more realistic. I'll ask you a question that someone, a law student, genuinely asked, and I'll also sort of put in the idea of why this question in the first place. So someone, okay, I'll name the person also. We have their consent. Obviously, they come and talk to us about these things. Arjun essentially wants to figure out that he's getting a job from both tier 2 and tier 1, and he is getting in that tier 2, he's getting to practice in both GenCorp and ADR related matters, which is a little bit more leaning towards dispute resolution. On the other hand, on tier 1, he's strictly working on in the GenCorp sort of a team. So he enjoys dispute resolution, he enjoys Gen Corp as well, but in the latter preference, like in the preference of dispute resolution being number one, and his second preference being Gen Corp. So he feels that will it be a little too restricted for him कि वो tier one join कर ले तो उसको Gen Corp में ही काम करना पड़ेगा, और he will not be able to make that switch later in his life. In comparison to, let's say, someone like, for example, him working at tier 2 where he's getting the exposure of both, and then probably he should take that up, because so that if he wants to switch later, he can sort of do it in a dispute resolution area. What is sort of your take? I mean, I just want to know
First
whatever
of all,
you
I'm
feel.
not a career counselor. And having
Yeah.
said that, having, having said that, I think the answer to this is very subjective.
Subjective. Yeah, yeah.
It really depends on what his goals are. Personally, I would go for, if there is basic sustenance on the table in both,
Right,
I would go for what drives me, what gives me joy,
right,
rather than the cash and rather than the brand name.
right,
Having said that, uh, it's also possible that it's also important to understand that at least in the dispute space, having work on ground is extremely important. So if you're willing to go that route, and if you're willing to really go on ground and learn from grassroots levels, then yes. But
okay,
otherwise, if you foresee yourself as just being in a firm, and that to a corporate firm, not actually being the front face before a judge, um, I think I don't think you can. I don't think litigation has a very long road ahead there.
all right, all
You
right, all
have
right.
to. I think it's very important to start at the grassroots there.
Okay, okay, perfect. And no, ma'am, for today, you are sort of our career counselor also. That's one of the hats that you probably hadn't done. So we are sort of clarifying all those questions. Ultimately, it's a show that is based for aspirants. Ma'am, but one very important thing that also sort of comes out in your journey and in these questions is that everybody cannot figure out, maybe the 5 years of your law school, especially when you were even talking about merger and acquisitions, and then probably when you felt that probably this is not my area of interest initially, at least, and maybe I want to try different things, and then you've also explored different sectors and industries. Ma'am, for a lot of people, they do not understand how to figure out what exactly to do, especially within the law school time period, like 5 years, because internships are also, let's say, 8 से 10, maximum लोग 10 से 12 internships करते हैं. That's sort of an average thing that's there, apart from what's mandated by the obviously the bar council. But if it takes this long, and how do you meanwhile decide that, कि चल जाएगा, कोई बात नहीं, मैं ये भी करती हूँ, मैं वो चीज भी ट्राई करती हूँ, and then maybe keep on shifting in roles?
मैं तो अभी भी figure out कर रही हूँ. So if you have the answer to that, you can let me know. Uh, so yeah, I mean, like, seize every opportunity that you get is all I'd say, and see where you find your interest.
Okay, all right, all right. So there is, and also, like, just to clarify the air around this, itna koi matha pachi nahi hai, as one says that you can take your time, keep doing on things, and you will figure it out, ma'am. But in the last answer that you were giving, you also talked about going through the grassroots levels. And last time when Sarvesh sir was here, like, let's clarify, he's a partner at GSA. He was talking about how he had started doing litigation in his initial years, from the very basics, and then sort of making their way up to the top. But the reality is that for a lot of people who are doing litigation, the money is not much, because firstly the competition, secondly you need to develop your own clientele, and there are a lot of other issues within the court systems also that one can face. But how do you, ma'am, what would your advice be to someone who's, let's say, starting at a grassroots level, also has to balance off the money side of it? What do you think should be the way around these kind of scenarios?
I mean, it is hard. I am not going to
Yeah,
deny that. It
yeah,
is super hard. And the sad part is that our country doesn't pay lawyers well to start with,
right,
especially at the trainee level.
right,
And as far as the competition is concerned, I think that's there everywhere, irrespective of which industry, which sector, which service. So that I won't really agree with as much, but as far as the pay is concerned, as I said, sustenance is basic, financial independence is basic. If um the question of the other aspects, your learning, your interest, etc., typically comes after that, unless you come from a background where you have the luxury, you have that push to take a little time to, say, add 2 years to your education and pick up work. But having said that, I mean, the rewards for those 2 3 years initially are humongous. And there are times when I wish I had done that. No doubt about it. But I mean, of course, life charted its own course for me, but I mean, if anyone wants to do that, I think grassroots is the place to start. Like,
right,
literally as grassroots as your panchayats and your commissioners' offices, and as basic as that.
right, 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 right. Absolutely. And ma'am, as one has often heard this also, that it took me 14 years to become an overnight success. And it is a very, very well put line, that it takes time, it takes sort of perseverance, मेहनत लगती है, और चीजें फिगर आउट करने का अपना टाइम होता है, and that is fine. That's absolutely fine for anyone who's also watching it. Please sort of take your time within the industry. But we've talked about a lot of positive things, and we're also sort of move towards the concluding segment of the show, where we'd also take your sort of a feedback on the show, wherein you'd say good things, and we put that in the edit. But jokes apart, ma'am, a very important thing is that the reality is that not everything is this flowery also. बहुत सी चीजें हैं आपने अपने पर्सनल लाइफ में भी देखी होंगी, विद रिस्पेक्ट टू व्हेन यू वर ग्रोइंग And you've mentioned a lot of mentors today. Also, if you want to please give a shout out to anybody, please feel free to use this platform and give that shout out. But उसके अलावा मैम, कभी भी personally आप किसी ऐसे struggles, and I'm talking just about the professional part of it, wherein you sort of felt that maybe, मैं क्या कर रही हूँ, या things are not in the right way as they should be, or you felt a little, because a lot of people have this fear, have this feeling, but openly they are not able to sort of talk about it. But now that you are where you are, anything that you sort of had to face within this entire journey that you feel was not really very welcoming or pleasing, and then you still managed to strive through it, and finally you are here.
Yeah, that's also cannot be a bed of roses, no. There
Right.
will be the thorns in between anyway. So of course there are a lot of those times. And to be honest, the moments of insecurity, etc., come even now. Like there are times when I will wake up in the morning and think, I have so many different things to do. How will I manage it? Will I be able to manage it? Or to actually feel butterflies in your stomach before a client pitch, even if it is your 100th client pitch.
Right.
So it's going to be there. Those tough moments are going to be there. I think it's just about going right through it.
Right.
That's the only answer.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's if you can't ride the wave, go under it. It's literally as simple as that. So I mean, a small
That's
hint from people who surf.
yeah, yeah.
But yes, I think it's really about um being able to hold on, to persevere, and to go right through it. Because there will be these moments of insecurity, there will be moments where you feel that someone has gotten something which you deserve. There will be moments where you feel that, conflict has arisen. There will be moments where you feel completely let down by yourself, let alone
Right.
somebody else,
Right.
where you don't feel up to the mark. It happened
Yeah.
with me literally
Yeah.
last week. Where I came home and said, damn, I didn't give it my best shot. Irrespective of the outcome, it's not related to the outcome. If you've given your best shot, you know that irrespective of the outcome, I'm going to be happy with it. I'm going to be okay with it. But when the outcome is positive and you don't think you've given your best shot, even now it happens. And I'm sure it happens even with my managing partner, even with someone who is 50 years into the profession.
Okay, okay, all right. No, thank you so much. That's the advice is also very realistic. Ma'am, this has been a combination of both, how to deal with life in general, a little bit of career counseling, and finally a lot of insights for all sort of law aspirants, and also me,
Not a
someone who.
philosopher. Not a philosopher. I
Yes.
haven't gone that far yet in terms of diversification.
Okay, okay. But okay, now since you're mentioning this, any future plans that we should know about? Let's say you're planning to write books or anything like that. Anything coming up in case?
Not that I have the time to, but
Okay.
yes, I do like to write articles,
Right,
and I am writing articles, and we will start publishing our newsletter in the media and AI spaces as well, and the data
right,
privacy space.
right.
So yes, I think that's a space that we are looking to expand in,
Uh,
and looking to, render our services further in.
Right, right, right. No, amazing. Also, just talking about publications, probably closing on the interview now, and we'll take your final comment after this. You have been in public, you are trying to publish, but you have been in the media now, you have been in the publications part of it, where people are writing about you. Ma'am, a lot of glory has also come your way, if I can humbly put it like that. And it is from my perception. Please don't say that, no, no, nothing like that, and all of that. A lot of glories also come your way. You've worked with one of the finest teams, you've worked with the finest people that one can think of or even dream of, for that matter. so many years in the industry, and there is no better way to put this question than from, does it ever sort of play into your psyche? I see you being very humble. You've said this in this interview multiple times, कि अभी तो मैंने खुद ही figure out नहीं किया है, या अभी तो मैं खुद ही सीख रही हूँ. You've said this time and again throughout the episode. But does, let's say even rankings वगैरह, it is a very important part. Law firms take part in it. People who are enrolled in law firms, partners, senior partners, a lot of rankings. We mentioned Forbes 30 under 30 is there for a reason, right? Does this ever play into the psyche कि ये क्या हो रहा है, मतलब इतनी सारी चीजें? I mean, go back to the time you were starting. Do you think that someone who's starting now, does this ever affect you both negatively and positively, or you have been like, कोई नहीं, this all keeps happening, I just will keep rolling with the ball?
Actually, to be honest, as I said, I don't think it's glory as such.
Okay.
That's a very
Very
exaggerated
okay,
word to
fine,
use.
fine. Yeah.
But having said that, I think it's a lot more scary than it is glorifying, because
Right.
that's when your responsibility starts.
Right.
The minute there is a press release about you joining a firm, you are responsible not just to the firm and to yourself, but also to your clients.
Right.
And the expectations from a client are to that extent higher.
Right.
So, I think that's the beginning of responsibility.
Right.
It isn't so much, and when you are in it, you realize that there is nothing to feel proud about, because that's when you have to prove your salt.
Right. Right.
Prove that you're worth your salt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. और मतलब वो प्रेशर फील होता है, बट इट इज इन अ गुड वे. आई मीन टू पुट इट करेक्टली, लाइक ऐसा नहीं है कि अरे बाप रे मेरे बारे में छप रहा है, ये क्या हो रहा है, मेरे बारे में छप रहा है. It is very important to realize that recognition is coming my way, but I am worthy of it. That is why it is coming my way. Otherwise, a lot of people are not also getting recognized. People spend years and lives in this industry, and that is also there. But I really liked how you put it from a very different perspective, and so probably that is where the difference also comes, because I said, I used the word glory, and I stand by it. But when you said responsibility, that also sort of changes my way of how maybe one should be looking at things, because people are trusting you with certain things when you are at a particular position, whether it's a firm, whether it's the workers that are around you, and all that also matters a lot. I think I said I'll take the final comment. Ma'am, this has been wonderful shooting with you. You are not just a lawyer. You're an entrepreneur, you're an innovator, you're definitely a leader, and you're a wonderful career counselor. I mean, if if anything, because I had a absolute blast trying to understand the different nuances, and finally it was the last episode of season 2. I don't think there was a better way to close this than to call you, and probably numbers also will sort of indicate that. Thank you so much for joining the show. We'll take your last comment on the show itself. Forget the aspirants. I'm going to not talk about them, but on the show itself, and we will put that, like I said, in the highlights, and then we'll close the show on this.
I think it's a great initiative at your end. I think you are trying to keep aspirations high for people. You are trying to give people the exposure that they keep seeking, and and in so many ways creating very unique content for yourself. So I think I had a blast too.
Thank you. Thank you for putting it out and using the same word also. I request the editors to edit this part out and play it separately. No, but thank you so much, ma'am. It's been wonderful hosting you today. And I'll take 10, 20 more seconds. Thank you for everyone who's watched it. First episode, I didn't think this will go this far. We had some 48 people watching it, out of which 10 to 15 are just my friends and family members. And today we stand at a place wherein 1 lakh people watch it on a monthly basis, and it's amazing what you guys have done for the show. We don't gossip here. There is no talking about relationships and all of that, and all the K dramas not happening here, and still the kind of response that this gets is just heartwarming, and it obviously happens because of guests like Nayona Roy. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am. We'll close the
Thank
season
you so
and the
much.
episode on that note. Thank you so much.
Thank you.